Okay, hello, I'm Andy Jorgensen. I'm a member of the CAMEL team, Senior Fellow at the National Council for Science and the Environment, but my day job is in the Department of Chemistry at the University of Toledo. I'm going to give you just a 5-minute introduction to the CAMEL project and our resources, and then we'll get right to our featured speaker for today. We ask you to mute your phone if you have not already. We'll invite you to unmute at the end when we ask questions. The chat box is open, and Lyle Berkey, our trusted managing editor of the Encyclopedia of Earth, will answer your questions if you type them in, if it's before the question time. I'm going to talk in these 5 minutes about the Encyclopedia of Earth, which is one of our background resources, a primary thing of NCSE, and then specifically the CAMEL portal. Notice our cute little CAMEL logo there. And if you have questions, technical questions, you're welcome to send them to me, which is just my name, Andy.Jorgensen. Make sure you spell it S-E-N, at utoledo.edu. The Encyclopedia of Earth is a peer-reviewed online encyclopedia. It's been around about 6 years, freely available to the public. It is wiki-based, so in that way it's like Wikipedia, but in a very different way, it is peer-reviewed, as noted in the top line. Every article there has been approved by one of the topic editors, and in addition to the author's name being given, again, different than Wikipedia, our topic editor's name is given, so I'm a topic editor in environmental chemistry. We have 1,400 contributors. We have a total of 7,000, actually almost 8,000 items now, including over 300 videos. We have articles, photo galleries, e-books, etc. That's the Encyclopedia of Earth, been around several years, lots of vetted resources. Portals then can connect to the Encyclopedia of Earth, and in addition to the portal, we're going to show you the CAMEL portal today. You can create your own portal. It's dynamic and customizable, and it can use any material. Your portal can use any material from the Encyclopedia of Earth or from CAMEL, no charge. It integrates, as I say, to the web, to the other resources, and your portal is your portal. No charge for that for as long as we're funded, and you can make it limited to your students, to your colleagues, or make it generally available. Both the Encyclopedia of Earth and the portals have sections for comments, and we very much want this to be a living community and invite your comments. Trinity, with the big U in the middle, is the technical company behind all this. And CAMEL is a specific portal on climate change education. What we have on CAMEL is about 800 entries, very close to 800 right now. About 500 of them come from the Encyclopedia of Earth and are peer-reviewed. Those are the background articles. But then other educational resources like syllabi, exercise, PowerPoints, each of these is clearly marked so you know where it comes from, and all of CAMEL is publicly available. Once you join CAMEL, which literally takes seconds, I'll show you how to do that, you can submit comments and questions on other modules. You can post articles, videos, news, and curriculum resource. If it is a resource, it is not formally reviewed. It's just checked quickly to make sure it's appropriate to post, but it's a living system. We have a template to make that easy, and you can create your own subportal with EOE or CAMEL materials. And your subportal you can limit to your students and colleagues. These are various partners, institutions and organizations, NGOs that are partners in CAMEL, and we're well into our 3rd year right now. And that is the end of the PowerPoint. Let me go live to CAMEL here. And it's a little busy on this page, and our presenter today will be showing some on this page. I invite you to explore this. The URL is just camelclimatechange.org, which I know many of you on here know. You've been on other calls. The 3 key sections are the step 1, exploring CAMEL, which gives you a topic index, step 2 to join CAMEL, and step 3 to add a resource. There's a 5-minute introductory video, which is probably a good place to start. If you haven't joined, let me strongly encourage you to do that. I'm clicking on step 2, and as you see, it is a key is already set up. Very easy. Enter a few items, and you join the website. And once you join, it's automatic. You'll be able to post material. Going back to the main page, I'm not covering added resource today, but you can easily do that. You need to be a member to add a resource, of course. Educator's Toolbox allows you to create your own website, and the CAMEL has a very extensive search capability either by keyword, by category, podcast, reports, simulations, or through this topic index, which was step 1. We have about 200 topics and subtopics, and each of these is a hot link to any of the resources that we have. So many ways to look through what is available to you. And every article, let me just go to one particular article here, and let's see, one here. At the bottom of each article, there is a section for comments, and we strongly encourage you to post your comments about what you think, suggestions, how you might have used it in the past, used it in your class, or just suggestions. We get some very good suggestions. Last point here, and then I'll turn it over to our speaker. Here is our list of webinars. You've obviously registered for this webinar because you're here. Today is Kristen from Will Steiger. Our next webinar is an unusual day. It's on Monday instead of Tuesday. Octaviana from Northern Arizona University. She'll be Monday at 3, but we'll still have our Tuesday at 3. Dave Hassenzel, he's our PI on this project, in fact, from Chatham University. So please click on whichever one to register. And my very last comment is sometime shortly after this call, you're going to get a survey. You know, if we don't assess it, it doesn't exist. It's a very, very short survey. Take you less than 5 minutes to fill it out. We appreciate getting the feedback. Okay, Lyle, you can now turn it over to Kristen, and let me.
Okay.
There you go.
All right, Kristen, the ball should be passing your way, and you should be able to continue from here forward.
We very much appreciate Kristen's willingness to present her material today. Take it away, Kristen.
All right, thank you so much. We are really pleased to partner with CAMEL and share our resources with you all today. I was asked to talk a little bit more about the course that I teach, focusing on teaching climate change for graduate students. And so what I'm going to be doing is kind of running through a little bit of background about that course, and then also about the Will Steiger Foundation, which is where I work. I will say, just to start out, that the goal of our education program at the foundation is to support educators and students and the public with science-based interdisciplinary educational resources on climate change, its implications, and solutions to achieve climate literacy. So working with CAMEL has been really great way for us to implement that goal. And so I'm excited to talk with you all a little bit more today about this course, and also point out on the CAMEL site where you can find some of our resources. And I understand that it's still being developed, so you'll see more as time goes on. But at this point in time, there's already some good stuff out there that might be of use to you. So I'll be running through the presentation. Feel free to, if there's a real pending question or problem, feel free to type in the chat box. I can't see it right now, but Lyle, would you be able to tell me if there's a really important question?
Yeah, anyone can send a chat to me specifically and privately, and then I'll be able to let you know, Kirsten, if somebody has something to ask you about.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So great. Well, so I really started focusing on climate change education and communication in the late 1990s, early 2000s, and I've been really, it's been a fascinating journey watching its evolution. And out of that came this course, really with the realization that there's a lot of work to do, obviously, in communicating and educating folks on climate change. And there is a lot of work being done in the communication realm. I'm sure all know Tony Lieserwitz's work at Yale, and Susan Moser really looking at how do we communicate on this issue. But my focus is really in education, and more specifically for this course that I teach on how do we teach teachers. Great, I see speak louder, cannot hear you. How do we teach teachers about this issue? So I'm going to start out first just looking at let's see, I'm going to move forward here. There we go. Why? Why do we need to be teaching teachers about this is important? And I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir a little bit, of course, on this. But first of all, to start out, this is from Susan Burr's work. She's out of UC Colorado. And first of all, they're not necessarily doing it. They're not teaching about climate change in the classroom. And the degree of engagement of actually teaching about it really varies, as you can see here. This is just looking at if they're implementing climate lessons in their classroom. And that doesn't mean it's being taught in depth or very thoroughly. There we go. Why else? Well, there's some pretty major barriers to integrating, to teaching it in the classroom. And this, I thought, why don't I let a teacher themselves say what that is? And this is from one of our participants in an Institute for Climate Change Education. Time, standards, and just the traditional school paradigms of them not being able to teach something really in-depth but touching on little units or small projects versus big project-based things. Why else? Well, there are forces working against us as far as implementing and teaching about climate change. And probably many of you are aware of this legislation that was just passed in Tennessee last week, which doesn't force teachers to teach, quote, both sides of the issue, but allows them to teach both sides. And so we really are presented with this challenge and to teach teachers that there is not two sides to this issue, and to give them the tools to be able to support that. And finally, once again, preaching to the choir, climate change is the issue of our time, and now is when we need to be doing something about it. And as James Hansen put it, climate change is like a giant asteroid that's on course to hit Earth. So these are some pretty important reasons why we need to be helping teachers and teaching teachers. How do we teach about this issue? So moving forward, just to give you some details about the course, it's called Overcoming Climate Change Misconceptions, and it's a 2-credit course, and it's online, and that does not mean that the course is an independent study. It's very moderated. There's a lot of online discussion that occurs, and we'll kind of run through how that works when I get to that point in the slide. But the course is through the Environmental Education graduate program at Hamline University. And let's see, I'll move forward to the next slide. And it's offered every fall. So if you're interested in more on it, you can get more details through Hamline, but you can also contact me, of course, as well. It's 5 weeks long. It uses Blackboard as the platform. And the audience has been actually contributed really to a really rich discussion, because a lot of them are pre-service or in-service teachers, but there are a number of informal educators that come as well, because it is in the environmental education program, and even some adult educators. And it's really brought some interesting discussion about how to implement this in different settings. It is limited as far the course changes. It's not static, it's very dynamic, and so what we'll run through now is kind of what we did last year. However, it will be changing again next year, just because the field of climate change education in general is so dynamic. Expectations, of course, are that students read and explore the resources. They're posting to a forum, and that they're spending 4 hours on a final reflection, and that's just, based on general standards of 24 hours for a 2-credit course. There is also, and I know a lot of folks that come to this webinar are coming from science courses, there's some assumption that they have some familiarity with the climate science. Because although we do talk about science, this course is really looking more at the pedagogy. How do we teach about this issue? How do we implement it? And not so much going in depth into the carbon cycle, the greenhouse effect, but more getting into the how piece of this. So before we jump on to Blackboard to just kind of look at it, the course itself, we're going to look at what are the foundations of this course. So like I said, it's really looking at more of a pedagogy approach. How do we teach about the issue? And this quote, I think, sums it up pretty well. It's just looking at the complexity of teaching about climate change. Teacher preparation for, practices in, and perceptions of climate change instruction are complex. Many factors go into good instruction, including the content knowledge, confidence teaching amidst controversy, access to supportive community, and access to high quality resources. So this is obviously broaching, this course broaches a piece of this. The course is inherently founded, like I said, in environmental education, which the goal of which is really to develop a population that's aware and concerned about the environment and its problems, and they have knowledge, skills, attitudes, motivations, and a commitment. So to work on these solutions about the problems as well. And it really looks at climate change education through this lens of environmental ed. So there's an emphasis on education, not advocacy. And this fairness and accuracy, depth, emphasis on skill building is something that we get into in the course. Where are there good resources? How do we judge that they are accurate? And how do we develop the skills that are necessary to solve this problem or to approach this problem? The environment is interdisciplinary. Environmental education is a huge emphasis on the interdisciplinary education. Climate change, as we know, is extremely interdisciplinary. I think it's sort of the great umbrella issue as far as bringing in all the different branches of the sciences, as well as economics, politics, communication, the humanities. We can bring these all in when teaching about the issue. And then really developing environmentally responsible citizens, and that's a huge piece of environmental ed. And when we're going to solve this problem, also obviously we need to be teaching our students to be environmentally responsible and helping our teachers look at ways to do that. So at this point, I'm going to jump over to where the course is hosted. We use at Hamline University, they use Blackboard. Probably some of you are familiar with that. Students would come to the Blackboard site to kind of go through the course. And as I said, the course is 5 weeks long. There's a framing question for each week to help them think about what they're reading, videos that they're watching, websites that they're visiting. And then they're asked to post to a discussion board thoughtful responses and comment on other student responses, which is a place where I spend some time reflecting and commenting on their responses as well. But it's really, this course has been interesting, and for me, thinking about creating an intentional online community and how does that work as well, which is not necessarily our topic this afternoon, but I think it's a really interesting piece of it, is how do we nurture that particular piece. So my plan here is I'm just going to kind of run through this. The syllabus for this course should be up on Camel sometime. I know that it's on the queue of things to be added, but I'm also very happy to share it with anyone that would like to look at it as well, and I'll have my contact info at the end here. So the first week of the course is really focused on a theoretical grounding, understanding the background of environmental education and how it helps us to become better climate change educators. So readings that are done are really looking at the background of environmental ed. So some of the history here, for any of you that are in environmental education, you may recognize STAP and Hungerford and Vogt as kind of folks in the field that established the field itself. Then there's also, because this is an online course, I always try to have there be videos or websites that are useful for folks to look at too, so they're not just reading. And there's some great resources through ICEE, which is at the University of Colorado Boulder. And this is a run through Mark McCaffrey, who's now at National Center for Science Education there, talking through the climate literacy principles, which obviously, as far as the grounding in what we teach about of climate change is extremely important. There's also some...
Hey, Kristen?
Yeah.
We've got a question from Linda Law Sanders. She asks, can you audit and take part of certain sections? And then John Layden has another question too, but we'll let you deal with Linda's first.
Okay, so you know, if I can get these questions written down, I'll look into it. The course is through Hamlin, and I'm not a course administrator, so I don't know any of those technical details like that. But I can look into it for sure.
Okay. And then, yeah, from John, he asks if your syllabus with the cited bibliographic and video resources are available.
Yes. Yes, and I'm very happy to send it out. And as I said, it's supposed to be on the CAMEL site, and it's possible, I know that they had been talking about creating maybe something similar to what happens here in Blackboard with the resources available. Blackboard is a closed site, so I think it's legally better. I don't know how you do it, but to embed a PDF is okay here because it's just available to a small group. I'm not sure how that would work, but yes, the syllabus is available. I'm very happy to send it to anyone who would like a copy. Is that it?
Yeah, that's all.
And all the videos and there's a bibliography, all that is on it. So great. This theoretical grounding also gets into civic education. As I mentioned, citizenship is a huge piece of learning about this issue. And let's see, that kind of takes us through that first week. And then looking at some of Liebewitz's early work too, how do we communicating on this issue, and what are some of the barriers to learning about it. So second week, then we start really getting into this concepts and core ideas, and this really changes year to year. Last year, I pulled out some keywords, understanding what a skeptic is, obviously, as that has become more and more the issue when talking about climate change, and skeptical scientists obviously being a great site for that. Looking at understanding what is evidence, so some of these core ideas that we need to be able to understand to really teach about the issue. Understanding how we had Dr. Naomi Oreskes speak, so getting into why are these misconceptions and persisting, and so having some video options available to watch through that. And then also certainty versus uncertainty. What are those differences, and how does the scientific process sort of work? And then what's the difference between weather and climate? And so I think this year I had pulled out maybe 6 concepts. You know, with the 2-credit course, it's very difficult to pull it all out, but being able to think about that there are some important concepts that we need to understand and how might we learn a little bit more about them. Let's see, the third week then is really getting into important things to think about when implementing climate change education. And really thinking, like I said, because the setting, some of the educators being formal, some of them being informal, high school and elementary, thinking about how might this be implemented best in your educational setting, and what are the things that are always important to include. And so solutions, this first presentation, going through kind of thinking about how do we include solutions, because solutions are absolutely necessary when teaching about the issue, especially with the K-12 audience. As we know, it's a very disheartening issue, and unless students are empowered to come up with solutions and think of their own, it's really, you're just feeding them information that kind of turns them off. But then also looking at standards that are available that to help the AAAS framework that was established for talking about climate change. Here, because the course is taught in Minnesota, looking at our state academic standards. When the next generation standards come out here very shortly, these will be included, I'm sure, in next year's course because the new framework definitely has laid out that climate change is a piece of there. And then looking at other models, place-based education, using place-based education in your setting as one way of teaching about the issue, and looking at some other reading and how you could implement it. David Sobel lays out what he calls the ladder of environmental responsibility, looking at how we can teach about this issue, starting from the very youngest and growing older. So looking at some different models of implementation of teaching the issue of climate change. Week 4, what curriculum resources are out there. And once again, this is something that changes year to year as well. These resources include things that focus more on the political science, to our Minnesota program, which I'll highlight a little bit later, a local-based perspective, looking at teaching through the national parks, as well as some of the more available online resources, like the Environmental Literacy Inquiry Climate Change site, and resources that exist for students or for graduate students to implement in their educational setting. And then the final week, of course, is how do you bring climate change to your educational setting? What did they learn in the course? And so I just pulled out a few quotes from some of the papers that students turn in. One teacher talking about how they're going to be doing a year-long project-based class, teaching citizens about the environment and problems, educating them about the solutions, and to be part of the solution. Another teacher, homeschool teacher that took the course, looked at, this phenology piece and place-based education, and journaling and keeping track of data over a year to year, and observing it, and understanding then also obviously how scientists gather data. And then a language arts teacher talking about using climate change literature circles, and really getting into this interdisciplinary focus on the issue. So a lot of different perspectives, a lot of different lessons taken from that. So at this point, I can take some questions about the class before I jump into just the next part, if there are any questions about the class.
So apparently they've been working with USDA to develop a model, but USDA is going to fight with where they are and how to model the stuff.
I can't.
And
asking a question.
that Well, Holly said they're working with.
Hello? Is someone out there? Nope. Okay. I'm going to keep talking unless I see a chat. Oh, I see some.
So it seems like there's some feedback on some of the lines. So chat's probably the best way to communicate any kind of questions that you have.
Great. Do you see any? I don't see any.
And Andy, I've just unmuted you.
Okay. Thank you. So if you have a question, put it on in the chat, and you can send it to Lyle. And these are questions on
Otherwise,
the course.
On the course. Otherwise, I'm going to jump to my next part. And if you think of any, obviously, I'll keep going.
Yeah. You could also just notify me that you have a question, and I can unmute you individually.
I saw one. How do I handle preconceptions and biases? That someone came through on chat, I think, said that. Yeah. Indicates less interest in Gen Y for climate change education. So, like I said, this being an online course is, I wouldn't say it's a challenge, but a good challenge. And inevitably every year, for one example, as far as ideas about teaching the issue, I always get someone that says they want, in their class when they're introducing themselves, they always teach about climate change and they present both sides of the issue and they do a debate. And, you know, I have a difficult time because when you're speaking, you're able to use a kind voice and sort of make it clear, like, you know, it's really great that you've been teaching about the issue, but it's not entirely appropriate to be showing both sides of the issue because there really isn't. If you want to be doing debates in your classroom, it's entirely appropriate to be debating how do we approach this issue, what are the benefits or some of the solutions, but and unfortunately I have to actually type that and write that into it. As far as preconceptions about some of the climate science, getting into those misconceptions, I don't broach that because, like I said, this course gets more into pedagogy of teaching. I do a little bit of an activity with them. Well, I present an activity on misconceptions that shows them that misconceptions persist and what some of them are. And an activity of working with your students on that. Okay, pedagogy. Where ELOs, I need for that to be written out. What are my ELOs?
And Kristen, we can't see your chat question, so could you repeat the whole question when you're reading it? It's only going to you.
Where are your ELOs and TLOs? Can you spell out ELOs and TLOs? Enabling learning objectives and terminal learning objectives. I have objectives for the course, which are listed. Just looking at understanding the basics and principles of environmental education and the basic processes. I don't have them outlined as enabling learning objectives and terminal. That's perhaps getting more deeply into something that I don't know as much about, I would have to say. I do have course outcomes listed on the syllabus, if that would be helpful. Is there any other questions?
Yeah, we have a question from John Ladens, who asks, what issues arise with teaching place-based issue of climate change?
What issues arise?
Yeah, what issues arise with teaching place-based issues of climate change?
Okay, place-based issues of climate change. Obviously, as far as, from my perspective, place-based means that you're getting the students outside more often. And obviously, you're running into the time and the students and teachers that are comfortable taking their students outside to do some of those things. here in Minnesota, we're quite blessed with a lot of green space, even in our urban areas. And so when we talk about taking your students outside, it's not as much a challenge for those teachers as it may be for teachers in other urban areas. I think really with the place-based piece, as far as climate change ed goes, we're more and more realizing that to really reach people and students on this issue, it needs to be brought more to a local level and an understanding of that. And so asking teachers to bring their students out and observe what's going on around them and to learn about how their place is being impacted is obviously much more impactful than just learning about something, how the icebergs in the Arctic are melting. Obviously this is important and we're all connected to that, but also getting into how our places are changing can be much more impactful. And also when we're talking about place-based education with climate change, we're talking about learning about how you can make a change in your place, so learning about the policy in your place. Can you read that question, Lyle? I saw it come through, but.
I haven't seen a new question.
Oh, maybe it
might be privately chatted to you.
What are your favorite resources to make students aware of common misconceptions in climate change? There are, well, the skeptical scientist is obviously a phenomenal resource, but it's also a lot of the information which we know if we just preload people with science is not necessarily going to change their mind. He also, though, recently has posted a few papers about how to replace those misconceptions with other information, and that's really being the key. I've done an activity, though, where I've taken some of the misconceptions that exist and then the preconceptions and that should persist, and had students sort of match them up and look at them and talk through them. I'm not entirely aware, I don't know of any resources other than skeptical scientists that really go very deeply into understanding those kinds of misconceptions.
You want to make clear that that is a website. Can you easily go
to
that website? It is a fantastic resource. Most people on there probably know about it, but if not, just in case, point more people to it. It's very
I will go
specific
to it.
on particular questions. It addresses common misconceptions. Very powerful site. Skeptical with a K, scientist.com.
Skepticalscience.com. And this debunking handbook that's over here on the right is the one I was just talking about. It's a pretty short article, but it's really very interesting getting, into this communications aspect of communicating about the issue. And then the Scientific Guide to Global Warming Skepticism, we always use at our Teacher Institute and make available to our teachers as well. And if you have an iPhone or an Android, there's an app that you can carry with you as well. So that's the one I was pointing out. Well, I'm going to jump ahead now. And just talk briefly about the Will Steger Foundation and the resources we have that are on CAMEL. And just so you all know just a little bit more of who we are. So we were founded by Will Steger, who's a polar explorer, and he's pretty well known here throughout the Midwest and internationally for his North Pole and Antarctic expeditions. But he's also always been a lifelong educator, and so he founded the Will Steger Foundation in 2006, really based on his eyewitness to climate change. And it's a really great story to be able to have and to work for. And he still continues to do a lot of speaking engagements and works with us on this issue. Let's see. And so I kind of went through that. He's always connected educators with his expeditions and environmental issues. And the first few years of the foundation, we actually had a number of expeditions that went to the Arctic, raising awareness about climate change, talking to the Inuits the first year in Baffin Island to find out their voice and hear from them about the issue. More recently, like I was saying, we've gotten more focused here in Minnesota and the Minnesota's changing climate, and our most recent educational initiative really focuses on that. We have 3 programs at the foundation: education, emerging leaders, and policy. And our emerging leaders program was the other thing that I thought would be of use to perhaps some of the folks on this webinar today who are at colleges. And let's see, I'll show that at the end. I'll take us back to our website here and point out that part. Our Emerging Leaders program is led by Abby Fenton, who is our Youth Programs Director. And locally here in the Twin Cities, she works with a group called Yeah Minnesota, which is high school environmental leaders, getting them engaged with the issue. But in the Midwest, she works more with youth who are on college campuses, engaging them, connecting them with funding and resources on climate, energy, and sustainability issues. And she works on that through REAMP, which is the website I have highlighted right here. And if you are in any of these states working on a university campus, there may be some synergies available through that. These are really, really motivated young people that really kind of give you hope for the future. And she's got working with them, kind of connecting them, like I said, with the resources. So that particular program may be of interest to those of you, if any of you are in the Midwest on university campuses. Our education program, I'm on our website here right now, includes curriculum and training around the issue of climate change. We do an Institute for Climate Change Education every summer, and that's coming up in August, on August 7th and 8th. If you are in the Midwest and can make the trip, it's a great institute. We always have a lot of good feedback, and usually we have somewhere between 70 and 100 teachers that come from around the state the last 2 years, but in past years we've had a more national presence. The reason the last couple of years we've been focused more just around the state is because our newest project funded through our state trust fund, which I'll run through quick here, is focused specifically on Minnesota's changing climate. And it's rolling up here. Oh, I already had it open here too. The project includes curriculum and training. I'm sorry, I've got a chat coming through here too. I can see it. Curriculum, as well as this internal piece here, is a learning module that focuses on the impacts of climate change in our 4 biomes here in Minnesota. It includes videos and some interactives, as well as an online classroom where students have been submitting their observations from around the state this year. It's been a really, really, really fun project to work on, and we'll be continuing it next year as well. Which brings me to, so here's some of the different observations students submit and we post, and a number of them take pictures. A lot of them are weather reports. Sometimes now we're getting into spring phrenology, which is really fun to see. And they're coming in from different biomes around the state, so we can kind of compare those as well. So to take you just to the CAMEL site, I promised I would point this out. So when you go to the CAMEL site, we're on the front page as a content partner. So you can click on the Will Seeger Foundation, and you can see some of those education resources I highlighted. The curriculum that we have is available to download for free from our website. Someone had come through, I think, and asked about our institute. This year it's $10 just for food for 2 days. If you are in the state of Minnesota, we offer mileage and accommodations as well, because we're still writing out the last bit of our funding from the state. The other thing Camel has pulled out that I think could be useful is on our website, when you go to our Summer Institute pages, which is over here, each year of our institute, we have a recap, which includes, there's me, which includes, we'll go to a different, here, this is recap somewhere else, PowerPoints and videos. Bill McKibben was here in 2009. We had Dr. James Hansen here in 2008. And so we have videos of all of them doing their presentations, as well as you can see there's those PowerPoints. Camel has gone ahead and pulled some of those PowerPoints out as well. So they're available to view and use for in your setting. And the ones that aren't there are also on our sites. And we have, like I said, each year of our institute, a lot of great information there. We also, if you're on our site, through our video gallery, have a plethora of videos, which I understand are also being referenced through the Camel site as well. You can search them through categories if you want something on policy, more on education, and you can use them and kind of view them looking at different topics. Let's see, the final, I'll go to that last slide, which will help me remember the last couple of things. This is how you can get in touch with us. We have like blogs as well on our site, and those are updated fairly regularly with new information. Or I should say too, our education part of our website is in upgrade. So over the next year that will be changing somewhat as well. But a lot of those resources are also on the Camel site. And
I'd say leave this page up for a while so
yeah,
get these down that might need them.
Yeah, and I'm done and ready for questions.
Questions through the chat, or if you want to raise your hand or just ask for yourself to be unmuted and you can ask the question directly. Lyle can unmute you. Looks like you're doing great work there at Will Steiger. Glad we're a partner with you. This is Andy Jorgensen speaking from Camel. To remind everyone, in the next couple of days you'll receive a survey on today's session. Please reply to it, and we have several more sessions coming up, 2 next week, Monday and Tuesday, 2 different topics. Go to our homepage, you'll be able to see it and register. Inviting
and like I said, yeah, my email's up there if you want the syllabus or have any other questions, feel free. What have I found to be the most frustrating aspect of educating on this topic? That's a great question. You know, I always say that my job here at the foundation is one of the easiest ones because I feel like teachers and young people are the most receptive to this issue, and I have had, I hate to say it, I want to, without jinxing myself, but I've had very little, if any, flack or questioning about climate change being an actual issue. So as far as doing the job I do, I find that to not be frustrating. The frustrating aspect, obviously, is that nothing has changed yet. So that's where I find frustrating, and to focus specifically on this issue every day can be very disheartening sometimes. And so I try to look for inspiration in other things, getting outside, enjoying it. let's see, do the enrolled teachers talk about the challenges they are facing with climate change in the respective K-12 classrooms? Is there pushback from parents, for example? Once again, you know, we have been really lucky here in Minnesota. We have filled our institute every summer. 75 to 100 really is the top end of our goal. We're fairly small. And so, yes, the stories do come in, getting some pushback from teachers, some pushback from parents, but in general, I personally here have not heard as much of a challenge. Now, we do have a lot of challenge. For example, this project that I talked about, Minnesota's Changing Climate, was funded through our Environment and Natural Resources Trust Fund, and was a bill that had to get passed through our legislature and then signed into law by what was then Governor Tim Pawlenty. The discussion on the floor about this bill was just horrible, to know that we have representatives that are in the state that are questioning this, but that there is pushback there at that level. Still, our new governor is, well, our past governor actually was who helped pass our new Renewables Act, the Next Generation Act here in Minnesota, which is 20% renewables by 2020. So Governor Tim Pawlenty did actually have a lot of support for us at one point in time.
And if you have technical questions, you can pose them to me. I'm Andy Jorgensen. In the drop-down chat menu, you can say it and I'll read it out loud, or send any question at all to Lyle. We're here to assist you.
Any other questions? Well, I got some encouragement from someone that told me not to give up. Thank you. All right.
Yes, we can't give up. The next generation's going to ask us what we did, and we should be doing
exactly.
it. Any last questions? We'll still stay on a few minutes if you have questions, but thank you so much for joining us. You'll get your survey, and if you're not a member of CAMEL, please join, and then you'll be able to post to your heart's content. And we hope to have Kristen's material up in the next week or so, her syllabus and other material. But you can email her before that time.
Great. Well, thank you very much. I'm glad this all worked. Everyone could hear me. Great.
Thank you. No, it went very well, very well. We're getting efficient at this, right, Lyle? Thanks to Lyle for setting it all up, and Ginny, who actually got it originally set up, who's not with us today. She's saving carbon dioxide by bicycling this week with her daughter.